Dr. Christina Williams, and I'm proud to be a part of OCTELA 2021 virtual conference. Every child has the right to read, but many kids are struggling to learn with the sight word leveled reader instruction that's popular today, and they need a scientifically proven approach. Struggling students, including those with dyslexia, are depending on classroom teachers to offer instruction that reveals how words work and equips all students for reading and spelling success. When I began my quest to learn exactly what is required to teach all students to read, I found a tremendous body of evidence-based information. I was stunned when I began learning just how long this body of undisputed knowledge has been a matter of fact. Here's the deal. I embrace the simple view of reading, and that just simply looks like this. Reading requires decoding and language comprehension. Decoding is what I'm going to be sharing today, and I'm even going to be sharing how you can enhance language comprehension. We're going to use children's books that are loved and that your students will adore, and that will absolutely help your kids to master phonics. So decoding actually is something that can be mastered. It's finite. It's something that we can start at one level and come one area and come all the way to the end, and it can be mastered. Of course, language comprehension, the learning is ongoing. We can always learn more about this magnificent world we're living in. So we're going to be talking explicitly about letters and the sounds those letters represent. And we're going to teach our students to process them quickly until they have comprehension. So we're going to teach kids to look at letters, make the sounds they see, and arrive with a picture in their head. That is what we call comprehension. And we're going to do that by teaching phonics explicitly. I used to be what I call an opportunistic phonics teacher. And when I was teaching when I was reading a book, I would say, all right, boys and girls, I'm going to read this book, How I Broke My Trunk or something like that. And I would say, this OW says ow, and this magic E and the word broke tells the O to say its name. And so I did spend a lot of time teaching kids about how words work, but I never fully bought into start with this lesson and then do the next lesson and do the next lesson. It felt just a little bit too rigid for me. But then I gave it a try because the evidence was so clear that that's what was required. And I could never be fully sure that all of my students had every lesson mastered until I got very clear about what I expected my students to master. So I'll be teaching you a progression of lessons that equip students to decode more and more and more words as they make their way through the progression. You don't have to know what a diphthong is. You don't have to master syllabification. You just need to begin teaching kids how words work. So I've got a progression that helps build kids' phonics knowledge and like I said, also builds their language comprehension. And you can begin using these lessons in your classroom tomorrow. So here's where we're going to begin. I'm going to ask that you begin by giving your students a spelling assessment. I retired early from my teaching job in a local school district here in Ohio, and I did so that I could kind of expand my reach and help more kids beyond the 27 kids in my classroom each year. And so I did that. Now I have Book Bums, which is a tutoring center that uses exclusively the Foundations for Literacy Phonics program. That's what I'm sharing with you today. So I begin with a spelling assessment. In my classroom, the last year I taught, I was teaching second grade, and my principal, who'd also earned his doctorate, knew that my area of expertise was teaching kids to read. And he said, Dr. Williams, if you really want to show that you are equipped to help anyone, what do you say the last year of your teaching with our district, I give you all the students on the individualized education plan, all the students on a reading improvement plan, all the students who are suspected to have dyslexia, and many of the kids who are English language learners. So I said, okay. And I'm going to be sharing that data with you because in our district, we use the MAP test to give us a nationally normed picture of where our kids are achieving. And I have for you, I'll share with you my data, what the kids look like at the beginning of the school year and at the end of the school year, and every single student made benchmark. Not only did my most struggling students make benchmark, but the kids who scored really high in the fall made tremendous growth in the spring. So it's not just for remediation. All kids benefit from explicit systematic phonics instruction, and that's what I'm going to be sharing. So you'll begin with a spelling assessment. I did it with my whole class, and I really just gave them 15 or 20 of the words that are in the spelling assessment. You'll have 3 to choose from, but it follows a progression from short vowels to digraphs. Do they understand how magic E works? Do they know the sounds for O-O? Do they know the sound, the AR says R? Do they know OW and OU and the sounds those letters can represent? So it goes in that progression, not kind of, it does. It follows that progression. You ask your kids to spell the words, and I can be honest with you, almost every time when I give the spelling assessment, the first point of error is in the short vowel sound. When I had such great scores on my MAP tests or my MAP assessments, when I retired, sent my scores to our district superintendent, and his observation of my scores and the rate of improvement, and hearing from parents who had kids on IEPs who had dyslexia, they were in his ear constantly saying, you really need to get Dr. Williams. She has a way of moving kids. And it's not me, it's this progression of phonics lessons. Anyway, he hired me to tutor the kids who had failed 3rd grade and then repeated 3rd grade under the 3rd grade reading guarantee and still weren't passing on any of the measures and our district offered. So they bused those students to me, some kind of grant in our state, afforded them the money to do so. And those kids who had failed 3rd grade were failing it for the 2nd year, made tremendous progress. So it's not too late. If they're 4th graders, it's not too late. Better earlier than later, but it works. So I'm going to share the data with you, and you'll believe it when you see it. So first, give the spelling assessment. Generally, and there's a record sheet too that you can give your students, or just have them write it on a plain piece of paper. It's up to you. You'll go through those assessments though at the beginning of the year and note where every student's point of error was. You're not going to grade them. You're not going to send them home. It's not a big job. You're just simply going to say, all right, his first point of error was number 6. Number 6 was digraphs. That's where his first point of error is. So you'll be able to track that student's growth as you progress through the lessons. It's the greatest, because when your kids are struggling and everybody else has moved beyond and one student is still working on short vowels, you know exactly what the intervention's got to be. So my principal loved this because we always knew which gap we should begin filling. I know so many times people would say, is it phonics? Is it comprehension? Is it, it's very clear. This is what we're gonna work on. We're gonna work on this till we have mastery, and then move on and move on. So here's the thing. I said earlier that almost always the first point of error for my 2nd graders was the short vowels. And by the way, if you have some kids who've mastered the short vowels and their first point of error was digraph, TH, CH, or SH, or magic E, no big deal. It's not a big deal if they hang with you with the short vowels for whole class instruction, because I guarantee you there are going to be some words they've never seen and they will grow too. So here's what I do with the short vowels. So first of all, your kids have to have basic alphabetic knowledge. So they should know their letter names and most of the letter sounds. By the way, if you're given a choice, letter names or letter sounds, go with letter sounds. That's the most important. You don't have to name a letter very often. The only time it's convenient is when you ask how to spell a word, but you could also do that by saying p, and that will tell them how to spell. So letter sounds over letter names. All right, so the first short vowel lesson we do is really teaching the kids Old MacDonald had some vowels. So in the regular song, we say E-I-E-I-O. Well, why E-I-E-I-O all the time? Let's give all the vowels a chance. We say E-I-E-I-O. That's 5 letters. We can do all the vowels. So we sing, Old MacDonald had some vowels, A-E-I-O-U. And you can see we made a short vowel poster. We make the A look like an apple because the sound we make is ah, like you're getting ready to bite an apple. And then the sound we make for E is like elephant. We tried to make it look like an elephant. Then for I, we do I. You hold it by the dot and we put a worm right here. It's an icky worm, so we hold it out in front of us and say I. Then for O, we draw a mouth around the O because it looks like an opera singer. And for the U, I couldn't think of a single thing. So we put arms on him and he goes like this, because the sound we make for U is that's it. So we sing Old MacDonald had some vowels, A-E-I-O-U, and then we say with an here and an there. If I were a principal, and I never did pursue that, but I would love to hear all of my early childhood students singing before an assembly or something, the short vowel sound song. So that's just a dream of mine. If it happens in your building, you take a video and let me know. So first thing we want to do is nail down those short vowel sounds. A says ah, E says eh. When you make the trunk for an elephant, I says I, O says ah, and U says You've got to get these nailed down. Now I've got lots of fun activities to do with that. I even got a taste test so that kids will eat a red hot, just one. They can eat a Tic Tac, and then they can have the little Dum Dum sucker. So that first day of school, we will start with letter A, and the second day, letter E, the third day, letter I. I've got game boards that have all words with short A, and they roll a die, they move their mover, and they make the sounds they see across the word from left to right, knowing what they know about how words work. And when they get an image, let's say they say, hat. That's comprehension. Comprehension is when those sounds put together make an image in their minds. That's comprehension. When you've got that, you know you're on the right track. So we make our way through this progression, and you can see here I have A says ah, E says eh, I says I, O says ah, and U says The next lesson is the digraphs lesson. And we start by reading Charlie the Ranch Dog, then the 3 Ninja Pigs, and then Should I Share My Ice Cream? So with each of these lessons, there is a high quality children's literature or piece of children's literature, a great book that your students will love, where we're building that language comprehension, but each one reinforces a phonics lesson. So we read Charlie the Ranch Dog. We say CH says ch, like Cheerios. The kids glue Cheerios onto the CH. You just put a little line of glue on the C and the H, and then they spend some time gluing the Cheerios on, and then they put thumbprints on the TH, and then you might not like this one, but it works. You put a little glue on the SH and you shake some shiny glitter and shake those off into the garbage can, and then you've got 3 vowel posters. And the kids will get words with digraphs at the beginnings of the words and the end of the word, like ship and mash. And the kids will decode those words and then place them under the appropriate mini poster. It's fun, it's memorable, it works. And then as soon as they've got those digraphs down, well, then you can teach about Magic E. So for our Magic E, we usually have a wand. Now, honestly, for my classroom, I didn't use this kind of one. This one is made out of maybe, I don't know, I got these at Michael's, and then we just got an Ellison machine die cutter for the stars, and it's just a little cheapo foam that we glued around the stick. And so I don't make these for all of my second graders when I was in the classroom, but there were these bookmarks or something that you could put in those, you know, pocket charts that had stars. And I just use a magic marker and put an E in each of the stars and put little words all around the room. But at Book Bums, we go all the way, baby. So we put this glittery E onto the star. We just glue it on. And then all around our literacy center, we hang words like this. So the kids practice their short vowels and they say, okay, this is up, hop. And then they put their magic E wand and they say, magic E jumps over one letter and tells the vowel to say its name. So this would turn hop into hope. They go all around the room reading the words without their magic wands and then with their magic wands. And I've got all of the materials for you. You can just simply print it and move on to the next lesson when you're ready. So I will make that very simple for you. Then they play a board game. They have a mover and a die. And notice with this one, the board game has words without a magic E and words with a magic E. So the kids are constantly navigating and thinking, will the vowel make it sound or won't it? And so that's the trick. You have to have lots of explicit practice. Just saying how the words work is not enough. They need repeated experiences making the sounds left to right across the word. I heard someone say that the kindest thing you can do for a child is be patient while they labor making the sounds left to right across the word. So when my students read up, oh, you give them time and space to do that. They need to be able to process how words work. So after we do magic E, then we, oh, by the way, we're gonna teach if it doesn't work like have and give and love. Well, no word in the English language can end with a V. So we put an E at the end, and if it doesn't do magic, no problem. If it doesn't say loaf, just flip it to the other sound and say love, and always it'll get you what you need. Then we teach a lesson with OO, and that uses Fruit Loops and Cookie Crisps, and kids love building words with that. Then we get our pirate's eye patches, and we learn the AR says R like a pirate. We give them pirate's eye patches. We read How I Became a Pirate. When we get to the part where the shark eats the ball, we eat shark fruit snacks. It's just fun. Every lesson is fully engaging, and the kids have lots of practice, whether it's a game board or a sort or reading words around the room. Usually it's all of those kinds of things. The kids come to master those phonics skills. And the magic of it is, with the repeated practice, making the sounds across the words left to right, making the sounds we see, knowing what we know about how words work, those words become orthographically mapped in our kids' brains so that they'll recognize the letter strings and they'll know the words with automaticity. I heard Emily Hanford talking about how there's been a study that says if a kid sees a picture of a chair and the word chair, strong readers process the word chair more quickly than the picture. It's incredible how good our brains get at reading when we're taught to make the sounds we see from left to right. Now, the one lesson I did bring to share with you is the OR says or, like Oreos. So we start our lesson by reading the book Corduroy. Almost always, I give the kids an Oreo. There are gluten-free if you have allergies. I can hear teachers already saying, I can't use food in my classroom. You don't have to. Here we have that freedom to do so. Even if you just bought those little tiny Oreos, if you could give each one one, so long as there are no allergies. You could do orange slices if you wanted to. Any popcorn, anything that you can think of that would reinforce that OR says or, that would work. Here though, for every class we do, we teach emotion and the sound. So at Book Bums with Foundations for Literacy, we say OR says or, like Oreos. So we teach our kids, we do a survey and say, who eats an Oreo? Just like that. Who eats an Oreo by twisting it apart and eating it 2 bites at a time, or in 2 parts? And so we do a little survey and we say, regardless of how you eat your Oreo, we're gonna say OR says or, like Oreos. So the kids can eat their Oreo cookie while we're reading the book Corduroy. And I don't know if you're familiar with the story. If you're not, you should be. It's a classic. But there's a night watchman in the story who goes around with his flashlight looking to see who made the noise that he heard while he was doing his, while he was on watch. So I bought these cheapy little flashlights, and what we do is we hang lots of words. These are going to be available to you at no charge. So we have these words with OR, and then we hang them all around our space, and the kids use the OR or the flashlight to shine on the OR to remind them that OR says or, like Oreos, just like we heard in the book Corduroy. So they read books all around the room. We dim the lights and everything, and the kids are using their flashlights to read OR says or, like Oreos. So they decode and they say P or ch, and they do it around the room. They get lots and lots of practice. Then we give them some words that look like this, and we give them a black crayon, and they make an Oreo around the OR just slightly so you can still see the OR. And they say f, or, form, s, or, sort. And so it sounds like they would be bored, but I'm telling you they're not. Then we play a board game. So they have a mover and die. They make their way around the board. The key with the game board is you have to listen in. So I assigned academic partners with when in my classroom, and I tried to put people who would really be skilled readers with less skilled readers. But I'm telling you, it can be tricky. So we don't shy away from expanding kids' vocabularies. We have words like important and organic and horrible and orbit. And if kids say orbit, I don't even know what that is, then we take the time to say, everyone stop, look, and listen. Jill here didn't remember what the word orbit means. And then you just give a quick definition, and then you'll have another opportunity at another time, and you just work at building their vocabularies. Then always at the end of each lesson, we move toward decoding to encoding. So I have word cards that have ORs and all the words, of course, and the kids can set their word cards on a bingo board, and we even have Oreo covers. If you wanted to do this for your whole class, you absolutely could. I bought black buttons because Corduroy lost his button for my class, and we use those for covers, but for one-on-one, we use these. And so you call a word, you don't show it, you just say stork, and the kids have to look all over their board where they have laid the cards. And they have to look for the word stork, and there are different words that start the same way, so they have to really look across the whole word. And then the kids don't say bingo, of course, when they get 4 across or 4 down. They say OR says or. And so it's fun and engaging and memorable. Then you have the kids write. It looks like about 16 words that have OR. So then they practice their spelling. You'll say, I want you to spell north. You can put it anywhere on your board. And so they put maybe north here and thorns here and porch here. And then you can play the bingo game again the next day, which is something they look forward to. And it'll be a great way to review the lesson that you've just taught. So then you make your way to the next lesson. The only way we measure to see if kids have mastered the skill is by a quick little spelling assessment. So maybe the next day or 2 after they've had some time to practice, then you have the kids spell 5, 6 words like thorn and porch and north. And if they do well, then you say, check, it's mastered. You make sure they're applying it when you do your one-on-one conferences for reading. When you listen in, are they applying the OR? If not, if they're getting stuck, you can just kind of put a check mark and say, we need to go back and review. And so you keep making your way through the progression of lessons. I'm going to give you, this is a Foundations for Literacy assessment record sheet, and it has the whole progression. We use these per child. If you're a classroom teacher, you would just use it kind of like your lesson plan guide. So it tells you to do OO, then AR, then OW, and it gives you a little check sheet to say, yes, we've done that. Again, I told you you would get everything. You will get the game boards, you will get the word cards, you'll get the words that you hang around the room, you get the spelling assessment, everything you need. There are even videos of me sharing what the lesson looks like. None of this should be scripted. You're not saying exactly what I say. You give it your own little flair. The most important piece is that when you teach phonics, your kids no longer rely on, I'm looking at the picture and I'm guessing. I don't look at the first letter and say what I think it's gonna say. I make my way across the whole word, making the sounds I see. It's a no guess zone. So I'm going to include all of this information. If you email me at Christy@bookbums.com, that's CHRISTY @bookbums, BOOKBUMS.com, I will send you everything. Again, it's the materials, there are videos of me, and there are the lesson plans. So very specific, detailed lesson plans that you can make your own. And if you follow the progression all the way to the end, I guarantee you, your students will read at grade level and beyond by the end of the school year. Maybe not this school year, but if you make it through all the lessons, even this school year. I will tell you that the third graders we worked with who had failed third grade and repeated again, we started working with them in March. We got them 2 hours a week. And by the fall, some students' MAP scores grew 40 points. It's a game changer, but you have to be dedicated to making your way through the progression. You just have to do it. I would say it took me 45 minutes to an hour of every school day. It's worth it. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'm happy to share anything I have with you to help you and your students have a year of success. Thank you so much.